Carl Jung reveals why you'll never escape discipline again. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. Every day, we make silent promises to ourselves to be better, to begin again, to show up. But if those promises dissolve by morning, it's not because you're lazy. It's because a deeper part of you has been abandoned. In today's message, we're diving into the profound spiritual wisdom Carl Jung left behind, why your struggle with discipline is really a soul-level disconnect, and how reclaiming your inner authority could change everything. What if discipline isn't punishment, but a pathway home to your most authentic self? If this speaks to you already, comment below. I'm ready to return to myself. Let's begin this journey back to wholeness together. 1. Lack of discipline is not laziness, it's fragmentation. There is a kind of ache that words rarely capture, the ache of watching yourself break the same promise to yourself over and over again. Not because you're lazy, but because a deeper part of you has gone missing. Carl Jung teaches that what we call lack of discipline is often not weakness, it's exile, a disconnection from a sacred part of the self that once held vision, courage, and clarity. Discipline, in this light, isn't about control or force. It's about reuniting with the fragments of the soul that we've pushed away. When you find yourself staring into the mirror and feeling a quiet bitterness, not hatred, but distrust, it's not because you're incapable. It's because your spirit is fractured. You say you'll begin. You believe it for a moment. But when the next day comes, the man or woman who made that vow feels like a ghost. What remains is the same tired routine, the same broken rhythm, the same internal silence where once there was fire. This cycle is not laziness, it's avoidance. You're not avoiding tasks, you're avoiding becoming. You're sidestepping the confrontation with your future self, the version of you who demands responsibility, accountability, transformation. And beneath that avoidance lies pain, not the pain of failure, but the pain of fragmentation. Jung would say that your undisciplined moments are not moral failures. They are spiritual signals, cries from the unconscious that a part of you has been left behind. The part that once dared to dream, to imagine, to commit, to create. The problem is not that you can't keep promises. The problem is that the self making the promise and the self waking up the next day are not aligned. One speaks with hope, the other acts with fatigue. And in between them is a soul split by expectation, shame, and the buried weight of the past. This is where spiritual awakening truly begins, not with mystical experiences or sudden enlightenment, but with the humble realization that discipline is not about force, it's about integration. It's about remembering the forgotten self, embracing the vulnerable self, and inviting all parts of you back to the center. You don't need more punishment, you need more reunion. You need to forgive yourself, not for doing something wrong, but for abandoning the part of you that tried to do something right. The discipline you crave is not external. It's a rhythm of inner wholeness. Every time you show up for yourself, even in small, quiet ways, you are repairing the sacred thread that connects who you were, who you are, and who you are becoming. The man who broke the vow is not your enemy. He is your teacher. He shows you where healing is needed. He shows you where energy is blocked. He shows you where the inner child still waits to be chosen. So instead of asking why you're undisciplined, ask, what part of me feels abandoned? What version of me needs to be seen, heard, included, loved? In Jungian terms, this is the process of individuation, the journey toward wholeness through shadow, fragmentation, and eventual integration. You do not lack discipline because you are broken. You lack discipline because your soul has not yet come home. And when you finally stop shaming yourself and start listening to the deeper cries beneath the avoidance, you will uncover the truth. You are not lazy. You are lost in transition. You are between selves. And the way out is not through more control, but through spiritual presence, through becoming a sanctuary for your own becoming. Discipline, then, is not a battle. It is a return. 2. Discipline is identity, not effort. Discipline isn't something you force, it's something you remember. Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom reveals that true discipline is not about struggle or self-denial, but about returning to your original state of alignment. You don't become disciplined by punishing yourself into perfection. You reconnect with the part of you that already knows how to move with intention and purpose. When you constantly break promises to yourself, when you say tomorrow, knowing it never comes, it's not because you're lazy or weak. It's because you're spiritually disconnected. The pain you feel isn't failure. It's a longing to return to who you truly are. Shame doesn't arise from doing nothing. It arises when your soul knows you were meant for more. And that shame, that tension, is not there to destroy you. It's there to wake you up. Jung believed that people avoid becoming themselves, not because they fear the work, but because they've forgotten the power already within them. That's why discipline, when rooted in spirituality, becomes effortless. It's not about grinding harder. It's about falling into rhythm with your soul's natural cadence. When you do that, habits no longer feel like cages. They feel like devotion. You don't need to force yourself to change. You need to remember who you are underneath the noise. The man or woman you're trying to become is not far away. They're already within you, waiting for the alignment to begin. Spiritual development is the process of shedding everything that was never you. So the disciplined, grounded, powerful version of yourself can rise. The longer you operate from disconnection, the more discipline feels like punishment. But the moment you reclaim your identity, when your values, actions, and inner truth align, discipline becomes peace. The goal isn't to control yourself through fear. It's to honor yourself through truth. You don't need more pressure. You need more presence. Look at your routines not as checklists of achievement, but as rituals of remembrance. This is how spiritual awakening transforms discipline from a burden into a sacred act. It is not about self-denial. It is about self-devotion. You're not trying to fix a broken version of yourself. You're learning how to listen to the part of you that never left. The part that never gave up. The part that's still waiting for you to come back. Discipline isn't effort. It's identity. And when you walk in your truth, you won't have to force anything ever again. Have you ever realized that discipline isn't about effort, but about identity? If this message resonates with you, comment below. I choose to embody discipline. And if you're just beginning this journey, comment, I will show up for myself, so we can grow together, step by step. 3. You're not starting from zero. You're facing your shadow. You're not beginning at zero. You're facing the very parts of yourself that were left behind. Every time you try to change, you're not just building a new habit. You're standing in front of the echoes of promises you once made and broke. It's not because you didn't care. It's because you were carrying the shame of having tried before and been met with silence, punishment, or ridicule. Carl Jung reminds us that the shadow isn't evil, it's simply unknown. And in that unknown lives the version of you that once showed enthusiasm, only to be shut down. You were taught that effort was dangerous, that wanting more made you a problem, that showing up boldly could lead to rejection. So now, when you try to become disciplined, your nervous system responds with fear, not failure. That fear isn't weakness, it's protection. The lazy self you've been taught to shame is not your enemy. He's a protector, built from years of intelligent adaptation to pain. He remembers what it felt like to try and be ignored, to hope and be mocked. He's not sabotaging you. He's trying to keep you from being hurt again. And this is where spiritual wisdom begins, not by pushing yourself harder, but by asking why part of you feels so unsafe with structure. Jung's psychology teaches us that change doesn't happen through control. It happens through integration. The shadow isn't something to fight. It's something to understand. And when you begin to see that your avoidance is not dysfunction, but a survival strategy, you stop declaring war on yourself and start listening. You realize you're not unmotivated. You're fragmented. And what looks like inconsistency is really a call to wholeness. The truth is, discipline is not just a strategy. It's an act of remembrance. It's you reteaching your body and spirit that it is safe to follow through, that you won't abandon yourself again, that you won't punish yourself for falling short, that every small commitment kept is a whisper to the wounded parts within you. I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere. Discipline is self-respect in action. It's not about achieving perfection. It's about slowly restoring the trust that was broken, sometimes decades ago. And that begins by naming the resistance not as failure, but as a messenger. When Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate," he meant exactly this. The patterns that feel like sabotage are often sacred signals from within, asking you to come home. So instead of forcing yourself into a new routine, pause. Ask, what part of me still feels unsafe to be seen? What part of me still believes that consistency means punishment? Because once you see the intelligence in your delay, you can offer it compassion instead of shame. And that, right there, is when real change begins, not as performance, but as reunion. If this message helped you face your own shadow with clarity, don't hesitate to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's walk this path of spiritual awakening together. 4. The shadow contains your strength. According to Carl Jung, the shadow isn't just a hiding place for shame or suppressed emotions. It's the vault where your forgotten power sleeps. Hidden beneath the surface of your consciousness are the parts of you the world told you to repress. Your discipline, your sacred ambition, your inner king. These are not flaws to fix, but archetypes to reclaim. The sovereign version of you, the disciplined builder, the fearless warrior, the grounded father, was never destroyed. He was suppressed, judged, exiled. And in spiritual awakening, true healing begins not by chasing light, but by reintegrating the gold buried in your shadow. Your procrastination isn't laziness. It's betrayal of your higher self, of the promises your soul made before the world told you to shrink. You say you'll begin. You feel inspired for a moment, and then you abandon yourself again. Not because you want to, but because the world has convinced you to distrust your own strength. Discipline is not the enemy of freedom. It's the expression of inner order. Without discipline, your spirituality becomes noise. Without structure, your ambition dissolves into fantasy. Jung understood this deeply. Until you face the shadow, the unconscious will rule your life, and you will call it fate. But fate is not what's stopping you. Avoidance is. The longer you run from the mirror, the more disconnected you become from your true self. Spirituality is not passivity. It's confrontation with your sleeping king. And he is not here to destroy. He is here to build, to restore, to reclaim. When you feel resistance to structure, to habit, to waking up early, it's not because those things are wrong. It's because you have forgotten that structure is sacred. In a world full of distractions, devotion is rebellion. In a culture of comfort, consistency is power. Every time you keep your promise to yourself, you send a signal to your soul that says, "I'm coming home." The path is not easy, but it is holy. The daily rituals, the repetition, the showing up when it's boring are not meaningless. They are the ancient language of the sovereign self. Spiritual awakening is not found in escape, but in mastery. And mastery requires discipline, not the kind born from shame, but the kind rooted in purpose. The warrior within you is not gone. He is watching, waiting, longing to be called forward. Your ambition is not ego. It is the map your spirit wrote before your first breath. And your discipline is the compass that brings you back to it. Reclaim it, not to impress the world, but to honor the man or woman you were born to be. The shadow is not your curse. It's your contract. And when you fulfill it, you don't just rise. You reign. 5. You must mourn the old version of you. Transformation is never just about becoming something new. It's about releasing the version of yourself that once felt necessary for your survival. That old self, the one who avoided change, delayed decisions, stayed quiet, played small, wasn't a failure. He was a guardian. He showed up when the world felt unsafe and taught you how to hide, how to wait, how to endure. But now, he's exhausted. His tools no longer build, they block. His silence no longer protects, it stifles. And if you want to step into your true power, you have to grieve him. Carl Jung reminds us that nothing changes until it becomes conscious. And what's unconscious in so many of us is this deep loyalty to an identity we've outgrown. Spirituality calls us not just to awaken, but to release. And in that release, we mourn not with shame, but with reverence. You cannot create while clinging to the part of you that only knows how to cope. You cannot lead while dragging along the version of yourself that was too afraid to be seen. Mourning is not weakness. It is the bridge between who you were and who you're meant to become. Discipline, then, is not just routine, it's resurrection. It's choosing to move even when your past self whispers that it's safer to stay still. It's building momentum when the echo of your former fear tries to freeze you. In spiritual development, energy must be reclaimed from the past to fuel your future. Every time you hesitate, it's often the old self begging to be remembered. But honoring him doesn't mean keeping him. It means saying, "Thank you for what you've done, but I don't need you anymore." This is the sacred threshold where real change begins, not with willpower alone, but with spiritual clarity. You begin to act, not because you hate who you were, but because you finally love who you're becoming. The shame fades because it no longer serves a purpose. The discipline no longer feels like force. It feels like devotion. You stop recycling the same emotional survival loops and instead invest in growth, in intention, in presence. That's what Carl Jung meant when he spoke of integration, not denying the past self, but absorbing its lessons without letting it control the narrative. When you stop identifying with the one who only survived, you open space for the one who is here to build, to speak, to lead, and to embody purpose with clarity and direction. The most powerful shift in your spiritual awakening is realizing that you're not stuck. You're still holding on. And once you let go, once you mourn with compassion instead of resistance, everything you've been waiting to create begins to flow, not because the conditions have changed, but because you finally have. Do you feel the old you slipping away? If you're ready to honor your growth and embrace who you're becoming, declare it in the comments. I release the old me. I rise in spiritual wisdom. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your journey below. 6. Discipline is a sacred ritual, not a grind. Discipline is not a punishment. It is the sacred rhythm of returning to your true self. When you stop seeing it as force and start recognizing it as ritual, everything changes. You're not grinding, you're remembering. Carl Jung taught that unless we bring our unconscious into the light, it will rule our lives without us even knowing. Discipline is how we bring it to light. It's how we take back authorship of our story. Every small act of consistency, a morning routine, an evening reflection, a conscious breath in chaos is a declaration of identity. It quietly says, "This is who I am." The power isn't in the intensity, it's in the repetition. You don't have to do it all at once. You just have to do it again and again. That's where the transformation lives. Most people think discipline is about control, but it's actually about freedom. You don't discipline yourself because you hate who you are. You do it because you remember who you're becoming. You choose silence instead of reaction. You choose presence instead of distraction. You choose the long game. And those choices, though small, build the architecture of a free and powerful mind. This is not about ego. It's about spiritual intelligence, knowing how to align with your highest self again and again, even when no one is watching. Jung understood that chaos isn't always loud. It often lives quietly in the soul that lacks rhythm. That's why discipline matters. It gives your energy direction. It gives your heart a home. You are not weak for struggling with consistency. You are human. And your healing begins the moment you stop shaming yourself and start honoring the sacred invitation of structure. Your soul craves rhythm. Your body thrives on trust. And trust is built through promises kept. Discipline, in its highest form, is love in action. It is the soul remembering its path home. You are not meant to feel imprisoned by your practices. You are meant to feel empowered by them. Your rituals are the reminders that you are not lost. You are being sculpted. You are being softened. You are being returned to yourself, one choice at a time. 7. You are always disciplined. The question is, to what? You are always disciplined. The real question is, to what? Some are disciplined to distraction, endlessly checking notifications before their own needs. Others are disciplined to self-doubt, rehearsing every failure in their mind while ignoring every quiet victory of growth. Still others are disciplined to fear, avoiding the unknown instead of embracing the challenge of becoming. But few are truly disciplined to evolution, to spiritual awakening, to the unfolding of their highest potential. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Discipline is not simply about waking up early or sticking to routines. It is a deep, spiritual relationship with time. Every moment you procrastinate sends a message to the universe. I don't honor this moment. And time, like an intelligent mirror, responds accordingly. You begin to lose synchronicities, momentum, even fragments of your identity, not because you're incapable, but because your energy is scattered. Real discipline is sacred. It's a quiet commitment to becoming someone your future self would trust. It's the decision to keep promises to yourself, even when no one is watching. You are not undisciplined. You are simply loyal to things that drain your spirit. What if your devotion to avoidance was redirected to transformation? What if you gave the same consistency to healing, to learning, to showing up for your purpose as you give to delay? In spiritual terms, this is the path of awakening, where discipline becomes devotion and time becomes temple. The spiritual wisdom hidden in plain sight is this: your life will be shaped by what you repeatedly return to. If you return to distraction, you fragment. If you return to presence, you integrate. Discipline is not punishment. It is alignment. It is the bridge between who you are and who you are becoming. When you stop waiting for motivation and begin acting out of integrity, something shifts. You stop seeking results and start honoring rhythm. The practice becomes the point. And in that practice, you reclaim your power. Every decision becomes a sacred vote for your future self. You no longer negotiate with your lesser patterns. You rise. You remember that time is not just passing, it's listening. And it will echo back whatever you consistently invest in. So ask yourself, not am I disciplined, but where is my discipline leading me? That answer reveals everything. 8. Your inner king is waiting. Discipline is not a burden. It is the invisible crown of your inner king, the sacred structure that holds your sovereignty in place. When you stop performing for approval and start honoring your own inner code, you awaken a deeper authority that has always lived inside you. This is not about control for the sake of control. It's about reclaiming the throne of your own life. Carl Jung taught that the mature self emerges when inner chaos is replaced with order, when fragmented desires give way to integrated purpose. And discipline is what allows that purpose to take form. Without it, your potential remains scattered, diffused in distractions and emotional swings. But with it, you walk with a quiet strength that doesn't need external validation. You move not because someone told you to, but because your soul expects it of you. In the realm of spirituality, we often chase the ecstatic visions, signs, synchronicities, while overlooking the foundation that makes all of it sustainable: daily structure. True spiritual development is not just about accessing higher realms, but building a life that honors what you've seen. A spiritually awakened person is not just someone who feels deeply, but someone who can show up day after day for what matters. That's what separates wishful thinking from embodied wisdom. Discipline is the ritual of remembrance. It tells the universe that you are ready not just to receive blessings, but to protect and multiply them. It is the bridge between potential and power. Without it, you forget who you are. With it, you remember, consistently, deliberately, silently. And that silence is everything. You stop needing loud motivation because your energy becomes ordered. You stop making promises you can't keep because you've grown tired of betraying yourself. Instead, you become the kind of person who moves with rhythm, who wakes up with clarity, who is no longer ruled by fleeting moods, but governed by meaningful intention. That's what the king archetype represents. Not dominance, but divine self-governance. Not performance, but presence. In a world obsessed with shortcuts and hacks, the one who commits to disciplined living becomes rare and powerful. They become stable in a world that is volatile, focused in a world that is distracted, grounded in a world that is spinning. So the next time you feel resistance toward routine, remember that discipline is not taking anything from you. It's giving you back to yourself. It's the path through which your intelligence becomes impact, through which your vision becomes legacy. Your inner king does not need applause to keep going. He only needs you to stop abandoning the structures that make you whole. There is no spiritual awakening without responsibility, no sovereignty without sacrifice, no throne without devotion. Your life becomes beautiful, not because it's easy, but because it's intentional. And discipline is how you honor that intention with every breath, every step, every sacred choice. Leave a like and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. And don't forget to tap the notification bell so you never miss powerful insights like this. Your inner king is watching. Type in the comments, "I deserve to live a financially prosperous life." 9. Discipline is how you heal, not punish. Discipline is not punishment. It's the purest form of self-respect. It is how you heal what chaos once broke, how you protect what you've rebuilt, and how you return to yourself after years of living disconnected. Carl Jung believed that individuation, the process of becoming whole, could not happen without discipline, because discipline forces you to confront every part of yourself, the strong, the wounded, the forgotten, and the exiled. This isn't about hating who you've been. It's about remembering who you truly are underneath the noise, the coping, and the avoidance. Your lack of discipline isn't proof that you're weak. It's evidence that a part of you has been waiting for reconnection. That undisciplined self isn't lazy. It's unheard, unseen, and longing to be led. Discipline is the bridge that reunites you with your purpose, your integrity, and your spiritual intelligence. Real strength doesn't scream. It shows up daily, silently, faithfully. You don't need hype. You need truth, structure, and self-honor. You don't need another dopamine hit or quick win. You need sacred repetition. The world tells you to chase passion, but Carl Jung knew the soul needs something deeper: alignment. And alignment is built through small, consistent choices that no one applauds. True spiritual wisdom is when you do what is right, not what is easy. When you keep the promise you made to yourself, even when the motivation fades. There is a sacred kind of power in walking away from distractions, not because you're being restricted, but because you're being refined. Every time you honor your word, you are rewiring your nervous system, cleansing your energy field, and reestablishing trust with your inner being. Discipline is the inner architect of transformation. It reshapes your identity not by force, but through presence. Each decision to delay gratification, to embrace stillness, or to resist temptation is not suppression, it is elevation. It's how you show your shadow that it doesn't need to be feared or buried. It can be integrated, guided, and eventually transformed. The ego craves comfort, but the soul craves clarity, and discipline is the compass that leads you there. When you begin to choose what feeds your future over what feeds your feelings, you become spiritually mature. You are no longer swayed by emotions alone. You are led by vision, by wisdom, by sacred intention. There comes a moment when the most spiritual thing you can do is follow through. When discipline becomes your prayer, your meditation, your offering, not because you're trying to be perfect, but because you are done betraying yourself. Carl Jung once said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." Discipline makes sure that the version of you with dreams and the version of you with habits are finally the same person. And that is how healing becomes your lifestyle. That is how you escape the loop, not by force, but by alignment. Not through shame, but through remembrance. Not with ego, but with intelligence. Not through fear, but with spiritual wisdom. 10. Now is the initiation. You don't need to be ready. You need to begin. Readiness is often just fear in disguise, another delay tactic dressed as preparation. The truth is, life doesn't wait for your perfection. It responds to your initiation. The moment you stop striving to become someone and start acting as though you already are that version, something remarkable happens. Your identity and your life begin to align. When you choose to embody the discipline of your future self now, not out of force, but from deep self-respect, you begin to return home to the person you were always meant to be. This is not about pretending. It's about remembering. As Carl Jung taught, we meet ourselves time and again in 1,000 disguises on the path of life. The version of you that has been exiled by doubt, laziness, and excuses is not gone. It's waiting for your signal to return, and the signal is action. Bold, imperfect, aligned action. Discipline, in this light, is no longer about punishment or sacrifice. It becomes devotion. It becomes the structure that holds your truth. You show up because that's who you are, not because you're forcing yourself to become someone else. You don't meditate because you're trying to be spiritual. You meditate because you are spiritual. You don't eat well, move your body, or keep promises to prove anything you do, because the awakened version of you simply wouldn't live any other way. In spiritual awakening, discipline is not a cage, it is the key. It frees you from the cycle of self-abandonment. Every time you do what you said you would do, you reinforce the message, I am someone I can trust. And trust is the soil where all transformation grows. This is not motivation. This is identity. The man who used to break his word dies here. The woman who used to wait until Monday begins today. The soul who once hesitated now knows that hesitation is the enemy of embodiment. And as your actions begin to match your highest self-image, the universe shifts. Not because the world changes, but because you do. You are no longer looking for external permission to act. You are no longer asking for proof that you're ready. You are living from the inside out. And this is where spirituality meets strength, when your values are not just ideas, but daily rituals. When your energy is not scattered, but sacred. When your inner world is not chaotic, but coherent. This is how you honor your path. This is how you return to yourself. And in that return, discipline will no longer feel like effort. It will feel like home. And if today's message stirred something within you, hold on to it. Discipline isn't just about willpower. It's about coming home to your true self. Carl Jung showed us that when we avoid discipline, we're not lazy, we're lost. But now, you've seen the path back to yourself. If this video brought you clarity or sparked a deeper understanding of your journey, help us grow this space of spiritual wisdom. Like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to the Spiritual Wisdom channel. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming explorations into the soul. Carl Jung exposed. No one enters your life accidentally. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." What if the people who entered your life, every heartbreak, every betrayal, every sudden connection, weren't accidents, but assignments? In today's video, we're diving deep into the hidden meaning behind those encounters and why no one shows up in your life by chance. If you've ever wondered why certain people appear just when you're most vulnerable or most ready to grow, this message is for you. As you watch, ask yourself, who was truly a teacher in disguise? Share your thoughts in the comments whose arrival or departure shaped your path the most. Let's explore this spiritual truth together. 1. No encounter is random. People are assignments. Carl Jung believed that nothing in your life happens by accident. Every person you encounter is part of a spiritual assignment, a reflection of your inner world, sent not by chance, but with a purpose to awaken, teach, challenge, or mirror parts of you you've yet to face. These are not mistakes, nor are they random disruptions. They are catalysts placed by the universe, shaping your path of spiritual awakening in ways that often only make sense in hindsight. When someone enters your life and breaks your heart, it's easy to label it as misfortune. But Jung invites us to look deeper. That heartbreak may not be punishment. It may be revelation. A sacred interruption designed to expose an illusion you were clinging to, or a pattern you were unconsciously repeating. Betrayal, abandonment, rejection. These aren't just emotional wounds. They are energetic messages demanding your attention. They signal where you've been asleep to your own truth, where your boundaries are weak, or where your self-worth needs rebuilding. Every interaction is a mirror. That friend who disappeared without explanation might be reflecting your fear of being unseen. That partner who couldn't love you fully may be echoing the parts of yourself you've neglected to love. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This means if you continue to ignore the deeper purpose behind these encounters, you'll find yourself in repeated cycles, meeting the same soul in a different body, facing the same lesson wrapped in a new disguise. Modern life encourages us to move quickly, to block, ghost, and detach without reflection. But healing doesn't happen through avoidance. You can erase a name from your phone, but not from your energy field. That's why unresolved emotional dynamics reappear at work, in friendships, in love, until they are seen, felt, and alchemized. These so-called coincidences are in fact precision tools of the soul, drawing out your unconscious so you can heal what's been hidden and reclaim what's been forgotten. Spirituality is not about escaping pain. It's about understanding its message. Each person who stirs something intense within you is holding up a spiritual mirror. The ones who enrage you are revealing your triggers. The ones who adore you are confirming your light. And the ones who abandon you are showing you where you need to stop abandoning yourself. This is not chaos. It's divine choreography. You are not being punished. You are being awakened, one encounter at a time. In this light, every relationship becomes sacred. The question is no longer, why did this happen to me? But what is this trying to teach me about me? This shift from victimhood to awareness is the turning point of inner transformation. Once you begin seeing others as messengers, some gentle, some brutal, you no longer waste time in blame. Instead, you begin the real work of healing, integration, and self-reclamation. This is the path of spiritual awakening, not a smooth road, but a meaningful one, paved with people who each carry a fragment of your becoming. Do you believe no one enters your life by accident? If you're ready to see every encounter as a spiritual assignment, drop a comment below saying, "I'm ready to awaken," to show your commitment to this journey of spiritual wisdom and self-discovery. 2. The universe speaks through people, not words. The universe doesn't communicate with words, it uses people. Every person who enters your life serves a spiritual purpose. Whether they arrive with love, leave with silence, or shatter your illusions with betrayal. These aren't accidents. They are soul contracts, spiritual agreements made before this lifetime, designed to awaken the deepest parts of your being. Carl Jung reminded us, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." When someone breaks your heart, it's not fate punishing you. It's your soul calling you to break a pattern, to see what you've been avoiding, to reclaim the part of you that you gave away for love, for safety, or for validation. Some lessons arrive in soft hands and kind eyes. Others come through chaos and pain. But each is sacred. Each is a catalyst for spiritual development. When a friend disappears, it might be life teaching you to stop abandoning yourself. When love fails, it could be the mirror showing how you've stopped loving your own soul. You grow not just through peace, but through pressure. Not just through comfort, but through contrast. And the more you resist these lessons, the more the universe repeats them, not out of cruelty, but out of precision. Spirituality isn't about rising above the pain. It's about going through it, translating it, and seeing the divine message hidden in every encounter. Everyone you meet is a spiritual assignment. Even the ones who trigger your worst wounds are revealing where you've yet to heal. The more you pay attention, the more you'll see the pattern. That person didn't hurt you. They woke you up. That disappointment wasn't a failure. It was your initiation. True spiritual awakening begins the moment you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to show me about myself?" Because the people you attract reflect the energy you carry, the beliefs you hold, and the healing you still need. When you accept that, life no longer feels random. It becomes sacred. It becomes the classroom where every heartbreak teaches you boundaries, every rejection teaches you self-worth, and every goodbye makes room for your next evolution. This is how your soul grows. Through people, not promises. Through disruption, not comfort. And that's the hidden order Behind the chaos, every person is a divine messenger disguised as coincidence. 3. Painful relationships are often sacred lessons. The betrayal, heartbreak, or ghosting you endured was never just emotional pain. It was spiritual initiation, a kind of soul surgery meant to remove the illusions you once clung to and force the growth your higher self had always called for. What seemed like rejection was actually redirection, and those who walked away didn't leave to destroy you. They left to reveal the parts of you still searching for validation, still bleeding from wounds you hadn't yet dared to touch. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." These people were not random. They were archetypes, divine assignments dressed as temporary companions, sent to expose what needed to be healed within you. When you begged the universe for strength, for clarity, for wholeness, did you expect that it would arrive as comfort? No, it came as disruption. Because spiritual wisdom doesn't whisper in safe places, it roars through chaos. That friend who vanished when you needed them most didn't fail you. They reflected your fear of abandonment. That lover who betrayed your trust wasn't your downfall. They were your shadow in disguise, bringing to light the parts of you that still believed love must be earned through sacrifice. These moments of heartbreak weren't accidents. They were mirrors, designed by life's greater intelligence to help you evolve beyond the versions of yourself that were built on survival instead of self-worth. Every painful goodbye taught you that your healing does not depend on anyone staying. Your wholeness was never meant to be built around another person's approval. And once the people who no longer served your highest path were removed, space was created not just for peace, but for power. The deeper truth is this: no one enters your life without spiritual meaning. Each connection is either a mirror, a teacher, or a catalyst. Some stay to remind you of your light. Others leave to trigger your transformation. But all of them serve your expansion. The gift of Carl Jung's insights is that he didn't see human relationships as coincidences. He saw them as contracts, agreements between souls made long before this lifetime began. Even the people who hurt you the most may have loved you enough to play the villain in your story, just so you could rise, reclaim, and return to yourself. That is the intelligence of the universe at work. And the more conscious you become, the less you blame and the more you bless. Because pain didn't break you, it built you. Because loss didn't leave you empty, it stripped away what was never truly yours. And now you finally see. The endings weren't the end. They were sacred beginnings in disguise. If you believe that painful relationships carry sacred lessons meant to awaken your soul, comment below, "I embrace the lesson." 4. Letting go is spiritual alignment, not abandonment. When someone exits your life without explanation, it's not always abandonment. It's often divine alignment disguised as silence. Letting go isn't a tragedy. It's an initiation. In the path of spirituality, we are not called to cling. We are called to awaken. When a relationship ends without closure, your ego may scream for answers, but your soul already knows. It's done. The contract is complete. Continuing to hold on only delays your growth, binds your energy, and suffocates your peace. You don't need their apology to heal. You don't need a final conversation to move forward. What you truly need is the courage to release what no longer aligns, without labeling it as rejection or failure. The mind demands explanation, but the spirit seeks liberation. Carl Jung taught us that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. That unconscious craving for closure often masks a deeper fear of being unseen, unloved, or left behind. But spiritual awakening is the process of becoming whole enough to provide that closure yourself, from the inside out. It's the sacred art of choosing alignment over attachment, peace over people-pleasing, truth over tradition. You honor your path not by convincing someone to stay, but by respecting the signal that their time in your life has served its purpose. Trying to force clarity from someone who has already energetically departed is like shouting into an echo chamber. It leaves you emptier, not fuller. Modern life romanticizes endurance, telling you to hold on, fight harder, wait longer. But true power lies in the ability to walk away from what no longer expands you. Letting go doesn't mean you no longer care. It means you've chosen to care for yourself more. It means you're willing to close a door without slamming it, without bitterness, without making yourself smaller for the sake of staying connected. In spirituality, letting go is not passive. It's potent. It's an act of deep self-respect, an affirmation that your worth isn't defined by who chooses or leaves you. If someone exits your life without explanation, let that silence be your teacher. Let it reveal what you were avoiding, what you were hoping to be rescued from, what you were afraid to face on your own. Peace comes not from holding on tighter, but from loosening the grip. You don't need a goodbye to move forward. You need honesty, presence, and trust in the divine unfolding of your journey. Because the deeper truth is this: every departure creates space for something more aligned to enter, not just in your relationships, but in your identity. Letting go is not abandonment. It's the moment your soul finally breathes. 5. You are also the mirror in someone else's life. While you're busy unpacking the pain someone left behind, the betrayal that shaped your walls, or the love that cracked you open, don't forget you've been that same force in someone else's life. You weren't just a character in their story. You were a plot twist, a revelation, a turning point. Maybe you were the reason they finally set boundaries. Maybe your silence taught them to hear their own voice. Perhaps your presence made them believe in miracles again, or your absence forced them to rise. You were the storm and the calm, the question and the answer, the wound and the remedy. You were the reason they cried, or the reason they healed, or both. And that isn't something to feel guilty about. It's something to honor, because it means you've been part of the sacred pattern of transformation that threads every soul together. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." But what if fate isn't just about what happens to you? It's also about what you cause in others, unknowingly. What if your energy walked into a room and activated something ancient in someone else's heart? What if the way you loved or walked away or stood your ground became a mirror that shattered their illusions and began their spiritual awakening? In the realm of spirituality, nothing is random. Every encounter is an assignment. Every goodbye is a redirection. Every ache is a doorway. And sometimes, you are the one holding the key to someone else's locked part of their soul. That's why spiritual development is never just about looking inward. It's about seeing yourself as a soul woven into the great cosmic web, where your light and your shadow ripple outward. You are not invisible in the lives you've touched. You are unforgettable in ways you'll never fully know. So live with awareness, speak with presence, walk with reverence, because you are the message someone's soul was waiting to hear, the mirror they needed to face, the catalyst they'll never forget. Leave a like and subscribe to our channel, Spiritual Wisdom. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss content that helps you grow spiritually. Comment below, "I am a mirror of divine love and healing," if you're ready to embrace the sacred role you play in others' lives. 6. The wrong people teach you the right lessons. Those who disrespected you, abandoned you, or manipulated your trust were not random encounters. They were mirrors of your inner wounds, teachers in disguise revealing the parts of you still waiting to be acknowledged, healed, and reclaimed. Carl Jung taught us that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. These so-called wrong people didn't appear to destroy you. They were summoned by your soul to awaken the spiritual intelligence sleeping within you. Their betrayal wasn't a punishment, it was a portal. Their absence wasn't rejection, it was redirection. And their manipulation wasn't meant to shrink you. It was meant to show you where you still gave away your power. The truth is, people treat you as a reflection of how deeply you've treated yourself. If you tolerated disrespect, perhaps it was because a part of you still didn't know how worthy you were of reverence. If you feared abandonment, maybe it's because you hadn't yet committed to never abandoning yourself. These individuals entered your life not by mistake, but as part of a divine pattern encoded in your psyche, a spiritual contract designed not to harm, but to initiate. Every painful relationship cracks open a layer of illusion. The illusion that love must be earned, that worth is negotiable, that peace comes from pleasing others. Through their actions, they exposed your unconscious beliefs and gave you a mirror sharper than comfort ever could. And this is where the real spiritual wisdom begins. When you stop blaming them and start listening to what your soul was trying to teach you through them. Pain is a compass. Disappointment is feedback. Every ending is a lesson in energetic alignment. They did not break you. They handed you the keys to your own liberation. When you begin to see life through this lens, you move from confusion to clarity, from victimhood to vision. You realize that the universe doesn't send you people, it sends you reflections. And each one arrives with a message. Remember who you are, reclaim your worth, restore your boundaries, and return home to yourself. So no, you weren't cursed. You were being carved. You weren't overlooked. You were being initiated into a deeper dimension of awareness. The ones who hurt you were messengers wearing masks, and when their role was complete, they disappeared. That's not rejection, that's divine timing. And if you can see this clearly, you'll understand that nothing in your story was wasted. Not a single tear, not a single goodbye, not a single sleepless night. All of it was the curriculum of awakening. This is not just psychology, it's spiritual intelligence in motion. It's the language of the soul calling you to rise. 7. Energy doesn't lie. Learn to trust it. Your soul recognizes truth long before your mind can rationalize it. And that recognition is not imagined. It's energetic intelligence speaking through you. Carl Jung believed in energetic resonance, a subtle spiritual force that reveals what the surface hides. When someone enters your life and leaves you feeling drained, uneasy, or confused, that isn't just a bad mood or social mismatch. It's your soul signaling misalignment. Likewise, when someone feels like home, like you can exhale around them, it's not mere chemistry, it's vibrational harmony. In a world obsessed with logic and appearances, your energy remains your most accurate compass. Whispering truths, your intellect may be too slow or too conditioned to grasp. Jung taught that nothing is random, and that the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. That transformation happens on the level of energy before it becomes emotion or action. People are either batteries or black holes to your spirit. And the sooner you learn to read the signals, the less time you spend trying to rationalize red flags or minimize your intuition. The uneasiness in your chest, the tension in your stomach, the invisible wall that forms when someone's presence tightens your breath, these are not coincidences. They are sacred alarms from your higher self saying, protect your light. Your energy doesn't lie. When you feel drained after an interaction, it's because there was an energetic withdrawal. When you feel inspired, safe, and expansive, it's because your spirit has found resonance. Spiritual awakening means shifting from ignoring these signals to honoring them as divine guidance. You are not being too sensitive. You are being aware. Protecting your energy is not selfish. It is essential. In a society that glorifies tolerance and rational explanations, the boldest move you can make is to trust what you feel. Not everyone is meant to stay. Not everyone who smiles is safe. Not everyone who listens deserves your vulnerability. And not everyone who appears kind is aligned with your highest good. Energy reveals intention long before behavior does. That's why learning to feel without defending, to observe without excusing, becomes a spiritual superpower. You no longer have to wait for proof when your body and spirit already know the truth. If someone's presence feels like pressure, if their energy feels like chaos dressed in politeness, you are allowed to withdraw without guilt. If someone makes your soul feel seen, peaceful, and strong, you are allowed to trust it without doubt. You were never meant to abandon your own frequency to maintain proximity to those who dim it. Energy doesn't lie. It guides. It protects. It reveals. And in the language of the soul, resonance is the only truth that matters. If this message has resonated with your soul today, type in the comments, I trust the energy guiding my life. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment of spiritual awakening and divine insight. 8. Letting go makes room for what's meant to find you. Letting go is not a weakness. It is one of the highest acts of spiritual development and inner intelligence. When you release what no longer resonates with your soul, you begin the sacred process of becoming who you truly are. Holding on to people who were never meant to stay only delays your evolution and clouds your clarity. Carl Jung reminded us that what you resist not only persists, but grows stronger. Resistance is rooted in fear, and fear is the opposite of trust. Trust in divine timing means surrendering the illusion of control and making peace with impermanence. Those who walked away, those who broke your heart, those who left you in silence, they were not random. They were mirrors, messengers, soul contracts sent to awaken the deeper parts of you. Their exit was the lesson, not the punishment. Their absence was the space your spirit needed to grow. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It means honoring what was, while no longer allowing it to limit who you're becoming. When you release the weight of unmet expectations, the pain of old identities, and the need for closure from those who can't give it, you clear the energetic room for what is destined to arrive. You stop being a prisoner of your past and start becoming a magnet for alignment. Spirituality is not about clinging. It is about flowing. True power is quiet, and it emerges when you no longer beg for validation or chase what's meant to find you. Letting go is the beginning of remembering your worth. The moment you choose to stop begging for crumbs, the universe begins preparing a feast. When your heart is open but unattached, when your love is pure but not desperate, when your soul is present but not confined, you shift from survival to expansion. This is the path of awakening. To detach not from people, but from the illusion that your value depends on their presence. And in this sacred release, you become who you were always meant to be: light, whole, free. 9. You were the answer all along. The healing, the love, and the truth you searched for in others were never outside of you. They were always waiting in the quiet chambers of your soul. Every time you reached for someone to complete you, to heal your wounds, to make you feel worthy, you were chasing an illusion rooted in forgetting. You weren't broken. You were simply disconnected from your essence, from your own spiritual wisdom. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." And this truth becomes clearer as you realize that every moment of pain, abandonment, or rejection wasn't punishment. It was redirection. Life wasn't hurting you. It was revealing to you the places where you abandoned yourself. That heartbreak that shattered your world, it was an invitation to come home. That betrayal you thought you'd never survive, it was a divine mirror showing you where you gave your power away. These weren't just painful moments, they were sacred assignments. Spiritual awakening is not a grand arrival, but a quiet remembering. You don't need to become someone new. You need to remember who you were before the world taught you to forget. You are not meant to shrink, to dim, or to edit yourself for anyone. The truth is, the more you return to your authentic self, the more your external life begins to realign. When you reclaim your soul, you begin to attract not from desperation, but from presence. Carl Jung warned, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." So many live on autopilot, repeating inherited beliefs, acting out unresolved trauma, and calling it destiny. But when you pause and witness your patterns, you reclaim choice. And that is true intelligence, not just mental brilliance, but emotional clarity, energetic mastery, and soul awareness. Every time you set a boundary, say no to chaos, or walk away from what drains you, you are not being harsh, you are being holy. To choose yourself is a sacred act. You are not waiting for a savior, a sign, or a soulmate to validate you. You are the one. And the moment you stop outsourcing your worth, the universe mirrors that shift. Life isn't random, it's reflective. You don't manifest from wishing, you manifest from remembering. The person who betrayed you was not an accident. The one who ghosted you wasn't your destruction, they were your catalyst. They helped awaken the parts of you that were still asleep, still looking for love in places that could never hold your depth. And so, you stop blaming, stop chasing, stop proving. You begin to see that no one enters your life without reason, and no version of you that ever had to survive was wrong. She was just temporary. You were the answer all along. Stay connected with our spiritual wisdom community by subscribing to the channel. Here, we uncover the deeper meaning behind every connection and awaken the truth within. Remember, you were never missing anything. You were the answer all along. You are whole, worthy, and guided. Let your journey of spiritual awakening continue with us. 10. The most powerful love is the one you give yourself. Real love begins the moment you stop running after those who don't see your worth and finally turn inward to embrace the sacred presence of your own soul. It's not found in the arms of another, but in the decision to stop betraying yourself for temporary comfort or shallow validation. When you choose yourself without apology, when you no longer need to be chosen to feel whole, you rise into a higher vibration, and that is when spirituality becomes your foundation. You stop attracting chaos because your energy no longer aligns with it. Instead, you become a mirror of the love you now embody, and relationships begin to reflect the wholeness you've cultivated within. This is not just emotional healing. It is spiritual awakening in its most powerful form. When you start honoring your own boundaries, listening to your intuition, and protecting your peace, the universe responds with clarity. The noise fades, the drama disappears, and what remains is truth. Jung understood this deeply when he said, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." Because the journey isn't about being desired, it's about becoming aligned. Every time you refuse to beg for attention, explain your worth, or tolerate disrespect, you tell the universe that your love is not up for negotiation. Choosing yourself is not a punishment to others. It's a declaration to the divine that you are ready for relationships built on resonance, not rescue. You stop confusing chemistry with compatibility. You stop calling emotional roller coasters love. You begin to understand that peace is the new passion, and self-respect is the new romance. There is no greater act of spiritual intelligence than knowing when to walk away with grace and when to stay with the soul. The deeper you fall in love with yourself, the less you fear solitude, the more you trust timing, and the more magnetic your presence becomes. That's when people feel drawn to your light without even knowing why. Because when you love yourself fiercely, you don't chase, you attract. You don't prove, you simply are. That kind of self-love is rare. It's quiet, steady, and unshakable. And it transforms everything it touches. And remember, no one enters your life by accident. As Carl Jung taught us, every encounter is a mirror, every connection a message, and every heartbreak a doorway to deeper self-awareness. If today's message stirred something within you, take a moment to reflect. Who in your life might be a spiritual assignment in disguise? If this video brought you clarity or inspiration, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Tap the notification bell so you won't miss the next soul-expanding insight we share. Your journey of awakening is just beginning, and we're honored to walk it with you. See you in the next video.